Welcome back to my channel. My name is Cece. I am an artist and a graphic designer based in New York City, and I love to talk about all things sex and sexuality. I just wanted to have a little yap session today about orgasms. I don't know what inspired that, but yeah, that's the vibe for today. We're gonna have a little convo about the orgasm gap, faking orgasms, my thoughts on orgasms, my experience with orgasms, why I kind of think they're overrated, hot take. But yeah, we'll get into that in a quick second. I'm hosting sex trivia on July 30th in New York City. I'll leave a link down below. Currently we are sold out, but there is a wait list in case anyone is interested in coming, pun not intended. And how I host trivia, I like having categories. And so this time for sex trivia for July, we have a whole category dedicated to all these questions about orgasms, and some of these questions are super interesting because of all of the research I've been doing around orgasms and just thinking about my own relationship with orgasms. I wanted to make this video and talk about it and be open and honest. So yeah, let's get into it. The first thing that I think is always super important when we're having a sex positive conversation around orgasms is talking about the orgasm gap. So if you're unfamiliar, there was a study done in 2017 where they surveyed over 50,000 people, and 95% of heterosexual men said they usually or always orgasm when having sex. 95%. That is a big majority compared to only 65% of heterosexual women who said that they usually or always have an orgasm when having sex. And that is what the orgasm gap is. The drastic difference in orgasm frequency between heterosexual men and heterosexual women. But I'm kind of more interested in the other statistics. So in that study, bisexual men, gay men, lesbian women were also involved, and here are some of the other stats. So 89% of gay men said that they usually or always orgasm during sex. 88% of bisexual men said that they usually or always orgasm when having sex. 86% of lesbian women said that they usually or always orgasm when having sex, and 66% of bisexual women said that they always or usually orgasm when having sex. So the percentage of bisexual women having orgasms during sex is very similar to the percentage at which heterosexual women are having orgasms. I think the percentage for lesbian women is very interesting. It's at 86%, and I think when I've talked to my friends about this, they always expect lesbian women to be having the most amount of orgasms. You know, people with vulvas, they can have multiple orgasms unlike men, but as someone who's queer, as a lesbian, as someone who has only had sex with people with vulvas, I think in lesbian sex, it's we are more okay with not having an orgasm at all, you know? We can have sex for 2 hours and there'd be no orgasm involved, and we'd be so happy and fulfilled by that, you know? That's kind of just the lesbian vibe. I don't know, this might be just my own experience and I might be talking out of my ass, but there's also that stereotypical graph of what lesbian sex looks like. It's you fuck, you come, you have a deep conversation for 45 minutes, and then you start fucking again, and then you have another orgasm, and then you have a snack or a meal, and then you come back and you start fucking again. It's it can go on for hours and hours, which I think is also funny. You know, I think both can be true, and I've definitely had both experiences. But going back to the orgasm gap, which is mainly a comparison of heterosexual men and women. You know, a lot of sex educators talk about wanting to close the orgasm gap, and how do we empower women to be more vocal in the bedroom, to communicate what they want. That is a huge part of closing the orgasm gap, and I feel it's so much easier said than done. The orgasm gap is deeply rooted in patriarchy and sexism. It's just also rooted in the fact that a man's orgasm is seen as more functional than a woman's, because you need sperm in order to procreate, and because of that, female orgasms are kind of just seen as whatever, you know, especially when you're in heterosexual relationships. This segues into another topic that I wanted to talk about, which is faking orgasms. And during my research of orgasms on the internet, I found the statistic that nearly 60% of women have faked an orgasm before. I feel like that's a lot of people. That's more than half of us who have faked an orgasm during sex. And I know that it's like super common, and almost all of my friends at some point have faked an orgasm. And again, I think when we talk about faking it, we're mostly talking about heterosexual sex, because, you know, sometimes a man just like doesn't know what they're doing down there, and you kind of want it to end faster, or like you don't want to let his ego down, so you just fake it. Like, I totally understand why people fake orgasms, but I personally, I would never fake an orgasm, and I never have, and I never plan to. Personally, I would rather just communicate during sex and be like, hey, it's just like not gonna happen for me today. And that has actually happened before. I've like done that multiple times. I've just been like open and honest of like, this feels really good, keep doing what you're doing, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to get there. And that's totally okay. For the person who's trying to pleasure you, they shouldn't take that personally. Like, it's just like, you might be having an off day, or you know, you had some alcohol, and so because of that, it's harder for you to come. And then for the person who is trying to orgasm, I've been in the position where I think like, oh, is something wrong with me? Like, can I just like not do it? Am I not as attractive to this person? You get in your head a lot, but I think it's totally normal to not be able to get there, even if you're like super into someone, even if you're like super wet and super turned on. As, you know, a vulva owner, it's like so normal. And so because of that, I think it's just fine to like communicate that to someone and be like, yeah, it's just not happening, but like, this is great. And also, like, I wouldn't want to fake an orgasm and kind of like boost someone's ego and thinking that like they gave me an orgasm when they didn't. Like, I don't want that. I would rather just be honest and upright about it, you know? But do you know what could improve your orgasms and just your sex life in general? Lube. I wanted to take some time to thank our sponsor for today's video, which is Head South. They are a queer-founded and Asian-founded sexual wellness brand, and I am obsessed with their products so much. So they have 3 products. This is the Slip Serum, the Slide Serum, and the Oasis Oil, which is the one that I regularly have on my bedstand and use. This is like their massage oil. The Slide Serum is a silicone-based lube. The Slip Serum is a water-based lube, and these are their 3 main products. And I love the packaging so much. It's very like colorful, but also gender neutral, which is a huge part of their mission too. They really prioritize making sexual wellness products accessible to everyone, regardless of their gender identity and sexuality. So when you buy one of these lubes, it comes with a reusable glass bottle with a pump, very easy to use, and then also the refillable serum itself. So this one is unopened, so I would just like fill it up into this little bottle, and then once I run out, you can go on their website and buy just the refills, which is super nice. Yeah, like, look how cute this packaging is. I'm absolutely obsessed. So if you're looking to get yourself new lube or a little massage oil, you can use my code CC20 for 20% off at headsouth.world. There will also be a link in the description that you can use as well for that 20% off discount. So yeah, let's get back into the video. So I think the biggest reason why people, even in sapphic relationships, fake orgasms is because we put so much pressure on the climax and coming. And this is where I kind of want to talk about my own experience with orgasms. So I had my first orgasm, I would say, at a pretty young age. Like, I started watching porn pretty young, and I actually didn't know what an orgasm was when I had my first orgasm, which just goes to show you how sex ed sucks. Yes, I had my first orgasm. I didn't even know like what the fuck had happened. Like, it just felt good, and I was like, what in the world was that? Didn't even question it, but like didn't even learn what an orgasm was until months and months later. So yeah, because I've been masturbating for a while, like I know my body very well and I know what is able to make me come and how I'm able to get there. And I also masturbated a shit ton before I had sex for the first time. And so when I did start having sex, I was like, this feels drastically different, and like my body is not used to this sensation. And like, you know, I obviously had to learn for myself how to communicate what I liked with someone, with a partner. But that definitely was like a whole learning curve. But then as I started having more and more sexual experiences, especially as I entered really long-term relationships where my partner was always able to reach orgasm and I wasn't, it started becoming like a very self-conscious and huge insecurity of mine, I would say, especially when I was like a teenager and just starting to have sex. Like I would be like, is something wrong with me? Am I just like not turned on? Do I just like not like my partner as much? Yeah, like why am I able to make myself come so easily when I'm masturbating but I can't during sex? So yeah, that's kind of been my experience with orgasms generally in my relationships. The most annoying thing though is that a lot of times it becomes like this challenge for the other person where they're like, oh, I can make you come, like I can do that for you, like watch me do it. And then it just like, that's such a huge turnoff for me. It's totally fine when I'm having sex with someone for the first time because there's zero expectation for either one of us. Like having sex with someone for the first time is a new experience for both of you, so no one really is expected to have an orgasm to reach climax because you're both still learning about each other's bodies, trying to figure out what the other person likes. And because of that, I feel like a lot of my like first sexual experiences with people like have been really great sex, even though neither one of us reached climax. But I think more recently I've been really changing my perspective on orgasms, or at least like thinking and being more intentional with like what climaxing means to me. I know that sounds like so like frou-frou. For a long time I was like, okay, orgasm equals pleasure, which is true, but I like completely ignored all the other things that also are pleasurable. And so nowadays when I masturbate, I always come, and like I can't not have an orgasm when I masturbate. It's just like kind of a prerequisite. And I use the same toy, I like in the same position. I usually masturbate during the evenings, and so it's just become like very routine for me. You know, like drinking alcohol makes it harder for you to orgasm, like having a bad mental health day can also make it hard. Just like there's so many factors involved that like when those do come up, I get very frustrated even if I'm masturbating and I'm unable to reach orgasm. And just like get very much in my head, get very frustrated. But I don't like that I do that. I don't like that I'm so like dependent on like reaching climax when I'm trying to feel pleasure. I'm trying to rethink the ways that I can also experience pleasure and also make masturbating pleasurable without having to reach orgasm, and what that can look like for me and how that would shift my relationship with my sexual self and my sexual energy. This kind of just flows into like having more intentionality when I am masturbating, and like how can I set the mood? How can I maybe light some candles, put on some music, really like focus on my senses and really like focus on the sensation itself instead of focusing on trying to reach climax. That's just like something that I've been really thinking about recently. Honestly, I don't really know where I'm going with this video. I think I'm just yapping a lot, but I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that like, yes, the orgasm gap exists. Yes, we want vulva owners to be having more orgasms, to be prioritizing their pleasure during sex. But at the same time, I personally think that we kind of also should put less pressure on the orgasm, on the climax. It isn't the end all be all. I feel like normally for people, like when you orgasm, like that marks the end of sex. Sure, like for heterosexual men that might be true because they can only have one orgasm, but like I want us to like rethink about how we kind of equate orgasm to the epitome of pleasure and how that impacts like why women are faking orgasms and like why people feel pressured to fake an orgasm. That's just kind of my 2 cents, you know, like I'm also definitely a victim to this. You know, obviously orgasms feel so good and they also have other functions, like they can reduce pain, they just like make your day better. You know, having an orgasm in the morning is like kind of like the best thing to start your day off with. But at the same time, like what does it mean when we can't reach orgasm or we're having trouble reaching orgasm, and how can we find other ways to find pleasure for ourselves and not put so much pressure on this one bodily function, this one like finale mark, you know? Yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to express. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for staying until the very end. Again, get your hands on some Head South products to make your sex life, your masturbation session a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to make it a goal of mine actually to use more lube when I am masturbating. I feel like I mostly use lube when I'm having sex with other people, and I want to see if like using lube when masturbating is going to change my pleasure experience, change how I feel about orgasms, and all of that jazz. I hope this video inspired some of you to kind of rethink how you view orgasms and your relationship with your own body. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.